Your kids hold a mirror to you sometimes to help you, or rather force you to do a lot of self-reflection. And as I started to navigate, or rather think of how I navigated my journey in the school system, I wanted my daughter's experience to be different than mine. So it led me to kind of like rip apart everything that I had done, just to be like, okay, let's
Yeah.
what would that look like? What would you have wanted to know? So then I started, okay, I would want to know more about self-identity. I would want to know about history, but not from a Eurocentric perspective, but more from an African origin story, and not just starting from slavery and all of that, but really visiting past civilizations and past glory. So I took that opportunity to do that with my daughter. And then I started to think to myself that if I'm also going through this journey, I'm sure there's other parents that are going through similar journeys, and maybe they might not necessarily have an origin point. So when I created my show for the Kujo's Kids Zone, speaking about African history and tackling a variety of different social issues, I had that in mind. I had my daughter in mind and other kids that were going to be of similar age groups. And that was that. Of course, along the line, you come across other people that are on similar journeys. And like we had discussed before, you talk to one person and they inspire you, and a light bulb goes off and it forces you down your own particular path. Like our predecessors before us and the long lineup of other activists in their own right and how they're going to operate. We're just literally a square in that fabric and that cloth of social justice, and we're just trying to sew our own patch, right? And that's what it is, really, right? And trying to motivate other people to do the same. And you know what? It's not I've reached the mountain top and I'm here and there's no work to be done. It's constant, right? It's
Yeah.
constant evolution. It's constantly, and you said it perfectly about unlearning. And that's key, right? Unlearning. There's a whole lot of unlearning um we have to do, not only as a culture, but just as a species of people. We have to unlearn. And the beautiful thing I love about my hair and I love about locks is that it's a constant daily reminder of growth. Because, when you have your locks, there are some locks that are extremely healthy. There's some locks that are, it's like sleepy.
Yeah. Got some thin ones trying to work it out. Yeah.
But it's the constant cycle of death and rebirth. It's the same thing in terms of just day-to-day life of you learn something, you cultivated it, and then it's time for you to put that down and start the journey again and learning. And it's a constant cycle of growth and rebirth, right? Even when you have your hair locked, you still have new growth and your roots that you
That's right.
integrate again. It's the constant cycle, and it's the same thing when it comes to forging your identity in terms of unlearning and then relearning. A lot of times when they talk about businesses, they talk about norming, storming, and conforming. What is it? No, is it forming? No,
Forming,
forming.
norming, storming, and conforming.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same.
along those lines. Yeah.
Along those lines, and it's the same thing, right? We have to constantly be in that cycle, right? And it's a never ending process. And just talking with you, even our last conversation that we had, it's like, I walk away from those conversations and I'm like, oh, wow, I really did what he had said about that. Hey, let me go down the rabbit hole and let me explore that. Or, hey, you know what? Let me look into that, right? And it's constant. I think it's important for us as well when we're starting off something that we have that same level of grace and just start it. Whatever it is that you want to do, just, I know it sounds super silly and super cliche, but like just start it. As you go through your own journey and as you're leaning into that, you're going to come across all kinds of people and situations that you weren't even ever expecting, just because in following your path, automatically opened up doors and led you to meet people or be in situations to create other opportunities, right? Just by just
right.
doing it, just by just being, right? You're doing something, you're like, remember you said about unlearning? There's this thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know why it's so ingrained. There's this idea and this notion that, like, okay, don't get me wrong. You want to do something, you work hard for it, no problem.
That's right.
But
That's right.
people have this idea that you're not enough in being you. Like, you are cultivating yourself to being the person you need to be to finally get to whatever juncture you need to get to. You yourself alone by design are more than enough. But this programming of no, you're not enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough clout, you don't have blah, 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 blah. Bro, you're just in being you. You were uniquely designed with all the faculties and things that you need to have, and then some.
This is Social Justice Origin Stories. I'm your host, Rolando Thompkins-Jones. Social Justice Origin Stories is a storytelling project that highlights personal stories and defining moments that have inspired individuals and organizations to labor for equity and social justice. Through truth-telling, the honest sharing of their experiences, storytellers teach us about themselves, enabling us to learn about ourselves and our world through their stories. By reconnecting with pivotal moments of activation in their lives, they invite us to do the same. At Social Justice Origin Stories, we believe that there's power in storytelling and lived experience is experience. There's room enough for all of us to do this work. There are many ways to contribute, and our contributions don't need to be the same. We can enter and remain engaged in the work using the gifts that are special to us while supporting others and using theirs. We have the capacity to grow and change for the better when exposed to new information and experiences. We believe in our inherent worth and capabilities, and we possess the power to inspire and create change within ourselves and others. We can transcend the confines of the status quo to imagine and design more equitable and humanizing systems. I'm really happy to be here today with Randy Quansah. It's been a while coming, but it was one day, maybe a year or two ago, but it was at least a year ago. One day it was just a weekend. So I was at home with my family. We were looking for some shows for our kids, and we came across your show. We came across Kujo's Kids Zone, and I decided to send you a message. Initially, well, I'll say this. I kept it in my mind. I didn't send you a message right away, but I kept it in my mind. So we started watching episodes of Kujo's Kids Zone. The first episode we saw, it was an episode called Is Kwanzaa Like Christmas, right? And so explaining Christmas and Kwanzaa to kids. And then we saw another episode called What Hairstyle is Best for Me? So we kind of just kept watching. One of the last ones we saw that day put the thought in my mind to reach out. It's like we saw one that says, what country does the pride flag come from? One of the things I thought just around how not only I saw you relating to the kids, just the way in which you were educating the children through your show. And I wrote this to you too. I said, educating children in such a humanizing way is such necessary work. We were watching these episodes, and I just remember thinking from that moment, like, oh, wow, like I'm really rooting for him. I'm really rooting for this guy. And I just hope his work keeps going. And I started Social Justice Origin Stories. And even from then, you weren't far on my mind in terms of people like, I'm going to reach out to him one day. And I kind of sat on it for a while, but then I decided to reach out and just let you know the impact that your show had on our kids, that the show had on me. Representation is super important. And I think what you are doing and what you have done with your show is not only providing like a real strong sense of representation, because, a kid's looking on the screen, it's like, oh yeah, hair like daddy, hey, even glasses like daddy, you know what I mean? Skin like daddy, that kind of thing. And so just how important you being who you are and the work that you have done, I just really wanted to express that gratitude, that impact. And I'm fortunate enough to say this isn't our first conversation. And one of the things that I was thinking there is just that talking about not just history and African history, but just acknowledging differences too and normalizing it in a way for the kids to where it's like, this is something normal, differences, variance among people and histories and identity is a part of the human experience in a way that is not demeaning to other groups of people, in a way that is not like, this is some scary thing, but like, no, this is a part of the human experience. And I just really appreciated that, just the impact of your work and how you do that. I can remember from that first day I saw the show, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for him because, I could only imagine the journey it took to go from idea to appearing before us on screen and distributing the show and having that be seen by folks and stuff. So I'm just thinking in this period of erasure that we're in now, I just think now more than ever, the storytelling, the sharing, the educating of the kids is so important. And so just by you being you and doing what you were moved to do in creating your show and your broader work, I just wanted to say, I appreciate you. I'm so glad you could come and join us. You talked a little bit about your early origin story.
There was an incident that happened. It was like my first day of school. I was like in grade 3 or something, right? And we had just moved into a new neighborhood, new school and everything. And I'm standing in line, and there's this Caucasian kid and a couple of his friends, and they dropped the N-bomb on me. And I knew it was an insult, but I didn't, because they were laughing. But truthfully, I didn't even know the extent and the harm of the word, but I knew it was definitely some kind of an insult, right? I go home and I'm catching up with my parents and my siblings, and they're asking, how was your first day of school and the new school and everything? And I'm like, okay, the gym's nice. The teachers are nice. It's bigger than the other school I was going to before, it was really nice facilities and everything. But somebody dropped the N-bomb on me, and like almost like a pin drop, with my siblings. They looked at each other and their mouths dropped. And my parents, had a look of concern, because it was at that moment in time where it's that conversation, right? A conversation in regards to race and what that looks like for you and what you're going to have to navigate through. And that was the catalyst for everything. And even though in the moment I had felt clowned, in some ways, I'm actually really thankful for that incident, because that was the catalyst that led me down the rabbit hole of self-discovery in terms of my African and my Black identity, and led me to find so many other motivational and activist and history and all of that stuff. So that was the beginning of my journey. So that was like wave one. And then when I had my own daughter, your kids hold a mirror to you sometimes to help you, or rather force you to do a lot of self-reflection. And as I started to navigate, or rather think of how I navigated my journey in the school system, I wanted my daughter's experience to be different than mine. So it led me to kind of like rip apart everything that I had done, just to be like, okay, let's what would that look like? What would you have wanted to know? So then I started, okay, I would want to know more about self-identity. I would want to know about history, but not from a Eurocentric perspective, but more from an African origin story, and not just starting from slavery and all of that, but really visiting past civilizations and past glory. So I took that opportunity to do that with my daughter. And then I started to think to myself that if I'm also going through this journey, I'm sure there's other parents that are going through similar journeys, and maybe they might not necessarily have an origin point. So when I created my show for Kujo's Kids Zone, speaking about African history and tackling a variety of different social issues, I had that in mind. I had my daughter in mind and other kids that were going to be of similar age groups. And that was that. Of course, along the line, you come across other people that are on similar journeys. And like we had discussed before, you talk to one person and they inspire you, and a light bulb goes off and it forces you down your own particular path. Like our predecessors before us and the long lineup of other activists in their own right and how they're going to operate, we're just literally a square in that fabric and that cloth of social justice. And we're just trying to sew our own patch, right? And that's what it is, really, right? And trying to motivate other people to do the same.
Yeah, trying to motivate other people to do the same.
I've had my own experiences with people saying different things about my locks, people's sometimes putting their own narratives onto you. I've had folks even share similar things with me around trying to give me advice, trying to be helpful in that, but just like, hey, you need to cut your hair in order to get it. And just seeing those episodes, even what hairstyle is right for me, or just seeing the ways you broke it down is super affirming to kids, super affirming to Black kids. And then also, I think last time I talked about the importance of mirror window experiences. So I think your work serves to really bolster and build up and affirm Black identity and Black culture, African culture among children, but then also it also shows white kids and other kids of color too. It also provides them some valuable and important education. And so I was just really reminded of that. But yeah, you were saying you were very intentional in designing like some of the episodes that you designed. You're very intentional in doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because so many different biases and stigmas that people carry in regards to our culture, I wanted to break that down. The color scheme of having the different colors that are associated with the Ghana flag of my parents' origin, right? Of my origin, right? And the characters, the names of the characters, right? So in the Ghanaian culture, they name their kids by the days of the week, right? So born on a particular day, you have a name associated with them. Sometimes you might hear the name Kujo. Kujo means a boy that's born on a Monday. Ajwa is a girl that's born on a Monday. You might have heard of Kwesi. It's somebody born on Sunday. Kofi, like Kofi Annan that used to work with the UN. I hear that and I'm like, oh, that's somebody born on a Friday. Kobe, Kwabena. You hear these names and, if you hit to the culture, but you might not know. There's a lot of Black people that don't know. And that's something new, right? It's intentional. I'm like, if Dora the Explorer can talk about her South or Central American origins and sprinkle it into the show, why can't I be able to do something like that as well to not only educate other Black children, but also other cultures that might have an interest in something like that, right? Again, when I created this, and it's interesting because, again, you had mentioned something earlier about kind of being like a light bulb, right?
Yeah.
Encouraging other people to have their own kind of aha moment and have their own journey, right? And a lot of times there's so many things that I want to say, but sometimes it's just about creating those light bulb moments, right? To lead you down the path. I had an episode about Black History Month, and I intentionally talked about Mansa Musa. I intentionally talked about Abu Bakr.
Yes.
Intentionally, right? Because every single time I'm fed up and I'm sick of it as an adult, and I can't imagine what are they trying to say? What are you really trying to say when you talk about Black History Month, the shortest month of the year? Let's not even go into that. But every single time you associate Black history, you associate it with one of the most traumatic and worst times ever in terms of slavery. If African people are the original people that are indigenous to the whole planet, why would you start the history of this group of people solely and focus intentionally, over focus on this trauma? Or you think that your point of origin rests solely in slavery, discarding all of the past civilizations of the Malay Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Akan Empire, all these other civilizations that have occurred way before European history, way before the history that have popped off in other areas in the world, because African Black people, whether you like it or not, are the origin point of humanity, point blank, period. You're the first to understand about agriculture. You're the first to discover medicine. You're the first. And when you have these stories and you narrate them from that standpoint, it builds esteem and being like, nah, I didn't come out here as a slave and that's just it. No. You come from a lineage of people that were here from day one, that have influences to this day. Every single time you take a train in the subway to this day, that's the design of a black man. When you turn on your light bulb, Vladimir, that's a black man. When you go and you get vaccinated, that's a black person that put that in. That's Egyptian. That's black people. Not just blues, not just hip hop, not just dance, not just sports and athletics. History. There is nothing else because everybody's building on this. But we are responsible for that. Don't just go and pigeonhole me into the greatest baseball. The only reason, the sole reason why black people get credit in those domains, as sad as it is, those are the very few domains where the rules, for the most part, are on an even playing field. And when rules are on an even playing field, black people get in there and they excel. So with that same kind of DNA that you have already inside you to do things for entertainment, what would that look like if that same DNA was also involved in medicine and mathematics and technology? Of course we would have excelled in that too. And we did. We laid the foundation, point blank, period. And creating those kind of episodes and those narratives, light bulb moments, not necessarily to give all the coins in the bank, but to encourage parents, encourage children to go down their own rabbit hole of self-discovery and finding out what that truth looks like for them, right? And that's what the real premise of the show is, to go down that rabbit hole for yourself and discover other things. And then when you know and you get to a particular point, you can also use whatever means of communication or whatever platform or whatever that looks like for you to then also set another light bulb and another human being and another and another. And before you know, hey, that's a whole lot of light bulbs, right?
It's a whole lot of light bulbs. Now, when we met initially, one of the things I'm bringing back to the conversation, I talked about another part of social justice origin stories involves stories of resistance, our journeys of trying to get free from internalizing the oppression that we experience, and also from internalizing those patterns of power that we experience from the privileges that we have too. And so when you were just sharing that, designing it very intentionally to bring about esteem and to remind us, like, our story didn't just start with being enslaved. There's a longer lineage of history here that some design has gone into covering up. And from what I get from your show and your intention, you're being very intentional about uncovering some of that in ways that the young people, the kids can get it. And again, like you said, they might hear something and they can look something up. So you mentioned Mansa Musa, you mentioned other folks. And so what's your relationship with getting free from internalized oppression, as well as those internalized messages of superiority for the privileged identities that you have? Like, what's your relationship with that? And how are you then, you talked a little bit about how you're putting it into the show, but like, what's your relationship with that now? Like, how does that influence you today?
Phenomenal.
Those journeys.
Phenomenal question, bro. And you know what? It's not I've reached the mountain top and I'm here and there's no work to be done. It's constant, right? It's constant evolution. It's constantly, and you said it perfectly about unlearning. And that's key, right? Unlearning. There's a whole lot of unlearning we have to do, not only as a culture, but just as a species of people. We have to unlearn. And the beautiful thing I love about my hair and I love about locks is that it's a constant daily reminder of growth. Because, when you have your locks, there are some locks that are extremely healthy. There's some locks that are, it's like sleepy.
Yeah. Got some thin ones trying to work it out. Yeah.
But it's the constant cycle of death and rebirth. It's the same thing in terms of just day-to-day life of you learn something, you've cultivated it, and then it's time for you to put that down and start the journey again and learning. And it's a constant cycle of growth and rebirth, right? Even when you have your hair locked, You still have new growth and your roots that you
That's right.
integrate again. It's the constant cycle, and it's the same thing when it comes to forging your identity in terms of unlearning and then relearning. A lot of times when they talk about businesses, they talk about norming, storming, and conforming. What is it? No, is it forming? No,
Forming,
forming.
norming, storming, and conforming.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
same.
along those lines. Yeah.
Along those lines, and it's the same thing, right? We have to constantly be in that cycle, right? And it's a never ending process. And just talking with you, even our last conversation that we had, it's like, I walk away from those conversations and I'm like, oh, wow, I really did what he had said about that. Hey, let me go down the rabbit hole and let me explore that. Or, hey, you know what? Let me look into that. Right. And it's constant.
So yes, the concept, and I love that. I love the storytelling there. It's like when you get the new growth, you got to reintegrate it. It's an ongoing thing, y'all. It's an ongoing thing. We got to continue to do it. Are there moments of your time in creating, could be filming the show, hearing impacts or messages from people? You said a few things, but are there any experiences, moments, noticings, anything like that that you can remember that come to mind that kind of communicated to you like, oh yeah, this is exactly why I do this. Other folks might have wanted me to put this other kind of armor on me, but I chose to do it in this way. And, some reminder from you doing the things you do that just shows you like, yeah, I was right to listen to my heart about this. I was right to listen to me. And I know that this is making an impact.
Okay, there's a couple of different things that had happened, but two that really stick out is I had done a Kickstarter campaign and I had to reach out to people and contact them and have them pledge and for helping me reach my goal. And I think at the time the goal was like 10,000 or something, right? And I'm calling, like, I'm texting, I'm emailing people I haven't spoken to in a hot minute in years, from elementary to school teachers to friends that I went to university, college with, friends that I'm dealing with currently. And a lot of times people haven't necessarily seen that creative side of me until I really started doubling down and started really sharing more of that creativity. And, at first, people wouldn't necessarily take it as seriously, but then it's like, okay, this guy is really serious about it and he's getting closer to his goal. Oh, wow, this guy got to his goal. I want to be part of that. I want to say that I contributed to that, right? So for a month, I was hustling and having the support of people. It's one thing to say, you support verbally, but when people were financially contributing towards your show, it meant a lot. And the people that you would expect to donate didn't donate. But then people that
Right.
you had no, like you didn't even think about would contribute in huge amounts. You'd be like, wow, you have greater impact in people's lives than you imagine, right? And people believe in it. And that was okay. And that gives you confidence and makes you stand a little straighter and be like, yo, we successfully did this and we got to our goal. And then 2 years ago, we got selected from the Black Screen Office in Toronto, Canada, to be one of 10 Black Canadians across Canada that were selected to attend this huge MIPCOM, which is like one of the biggest film festivals in Cape Town, South Africa. So like the plane ticket was taken care of, the hotel accommodations were taken care of, the cost of the conference was taken care of. And then they took us on a wine tour. They took us to all these major studios and film production spots. And then it's like you're there. I'm standing in studios that were filmed with Mark Wahlberg, Ryan Reynolds, Denzel Washington. Hey, look all over here. This was a scene from The Warrior King. This was a scene from Terminator. Wow. And you're like, I'm here, I'm so close. I'm in this festival and literally 5 steps away from me is NBC. 2 steps away from Netflix, Paramount, this other, and you're like, wow, this is okay. You're getting close. It's one thing to be selected, but then you're there And that energy, it's infectious, right? And it motivates you like, wow, okay, one thing to be selected, but then be in the presence of other creators was cool. It was really, really, really cool. And it was, again, affirming as well, because, when you're in this journey and you're in it, you're never in it completely alone, but like you do feel alone a lot of times. And you feel like you're silly for thinking that you'll be able to have the kind of impact that you're looking for. Having those moments and celebrating those victories, it helps you to continue to have skin in the game, right? So I'm very thankful for that moment, amongst other moments, right? Amongst other moments, right? Yeah, amongst other moments, right? Like between you and I on the wall, I remember No Word of a Lie. It couldn't have been scripted any better. I went on a date and we're playing basketball, shooting hoops, and these kids that were with their parents in the park came out of nowhere, and they're like, and she runs back and she gets her mom's and she's like, Kujo. And it was just, it's touching. It's touching.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
man, this is great. You can't even write this any better. But it was cool, and just, reaching out and having those moments of confirmation, and it's nice. It pulls you along the way sometimes when you're in those dark moments of potential doubt or frustration. Those little moments, they give you the inspiration and motivation to continue to go along.
Thank you for sharing that. It's like we're talking and you're sharing your story. It's you and me in this virtual space here now, but then it's also reaching the listeners out there who are going to come across this. Some folks out there who tune in, who listen, who may be in that space of self-doubt. When you're talking to us in a lot of ways of how you took it from an idea into existing. And so, you're just out and the kid comes up to you, it's like, oh, it's Kujo. It's like, all right, I'm out here. I'm an influence and a figure in someone else's life. I'm connecting with them in that positive way. That's great, man. That's really great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So who or what has contributed to shaping the way you see the world, the way you approach your work today? This is a space for you to reflect and share on who are some of those folks for you that have contributed to you and your work.
Absolutely. In terms of like, local people in the industry as well, I'm forever grateful to Joan from the BSO. And then, of course, Cheryl Fogel out here in Calgary, Alberta is a walking, breathing legend. Inspirational, definitely, in terms of the things that she's put out. But then, of course, like my folks, I appreciate at that moment in time where that situation did happen. They helped me with my journey and introduced me to the Martin Luther King and civil rights movements. And then after that, again, you go down the rabbit hole, you discover other things. And, so that was my bulb being partially lit at that time too as well. But anybody that's been in the children's space, from Sesame Street to Mr. Rogers to, of course, LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
we share the same birthday.
Wow.
February 16th. We share the same birthday, right? LeVar Burton was huge. To see another Black man who spoke so eloquently and didn't fit the prototypical archetypes of Black masculinity that are so often misconstrued. It was, I didn't even realize that at that time, but as an adult looking back, I'm like, LeVar Burton was the man, right? Like,
Yeah.
they can't even imagine the stuff that he had to go through to fund his program, to get people out reading, and the different setbacks that he had faced and gone through, and not sacrificing or compromising his integrity, his creative integrity. Big salute to him. And everybody else, right? And everybody else that was in the children's space at that time, Sesame Street, and of course, all the other people that were there too as well. And then, to be honest with you, everybody that's currently doing it right now, right? That's not doing the whole coonery and buffoonery, that are in it really to spread positive vibes and messages. Those people also inspire me as well, because when I see them going out and doing things, it inspires me. I don't know, I think I had mentioned it before that I had met the parents of, oh my God, what's that show called?
Oh, we were talking about Gracie's Corner. We were talking
Yes,
about
Gracie's
Gracie's
Corner.
Corner. Yes.
Shout out to Gracie's Corner. You know, I met her parents in Florida, in Miami, in Kidscreen, and they're being nominated for an ACCP award, and they were so cool and so chill. And so, yeah, they're so cool. And seeing that and hearing, I had a chance of, talking to the dad, and, we started chopping it up a little bit. And he told me how they got started. And it was cool. And listening to him and what he's doing, it's like a family affair, right? It's literally a family affair. He's like, oh man, it was an IT, and then I got out of it and I started doing this and started trying to thing and da 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 da. And boom, right? Those things inspire me, right? Really, they do. They inspire me. It's very easy sometimes to get into that lower vibrational mode of like, oh man, I wish I could have your audience or your platform or whatever. But if you objectively look at what everybody's doing, you're like, hey, we're all on the same team. We're all on team change, right?
That's
Team
right.
positive change.
right.
Whether that's
That's
2
right.
million strong or whether it's 1 strong or 100 strong or 50 strong, we're all on team change, right? So those things inspire me.
Right. And that's one of the reasons, right? So you talked about meeting parents of Grace's Corner. You talked about LeVar Burton. Shout out to him too. I listened to a podcast that LeVar Burton was on recently. It was really something to hear, sharing just little insights into his journey. One of the things I remember him saying, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it was something to the effect of him talking about having the gift of being able to be with folks in terms of Black experiences in the past, referencing some of his experiences with Roots and bringing that story onto the screen. And then also the future with Star Trek, but then also in this educational space of being a Reading Rainbow and being that person for folks and bringing folks along and exposing us to so much education. And so I remember him describing that in many ways, talking about what a gift it is to be able to say that you've been in all these different spaces and been an influence for people, and how incredibly wonderful that is, and lucky in some way, just really great. And when you were talking about LeVar and you were saying you can only imagine what it took for LeVar to use it, and I'm like, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's the circle. That's an example of a connection, because I'm looking at what you're doing and I'm also appreciative of what you are doing and have done. But there's also that level of what I was saying earlier, like, man, I can only imagine like what it took for you to get from idea to, out in these places and stuff. And so I loved how you said that, though. We really are on the same team change, even the people that we look at and it's like, oh, wow, that's so incredible what you did. They all had their own journey of becoming, and we have ours. And so that's one of the reasons why we have these conversations, because there's somebody out there listening too that will be in a similar place. What you were saying is really going to support somebody. And sometimes they might need the affirmation, the reminder to stay on that path that they're on, or just normalizing that it's not always easy, And so I just appreciate you sharing everything you shared there. So there's another half to that question when I think about influences. And what would you say in terms of speaking to, it could be from a place of just from gratitude or just speaking to the impact that those influences had on you?
I would say that they serve the purpose of inspiration, right? And it's hard to think about it because, in a world where everybody is trying to convince you to support popular opinion, it's difficult to stay on your path of being unique and different, right? They inspire me, but at the same time, they remind me that in the same way that they have found success in being themselves, I also have to stay the course and be my authentic self as well, right? And that my journey is like nobody else's journey. And the milestones that I will hit along my journey will look very different than the milestones that they hit. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm more or less successful. It just means that the timing, and I think that's the key thing, the timing will happen when it's your time to happen. And just starting something and just doing anything, you're going to automatically increase your likelihood of meeting the right people and being successful. And success is not necessarily, hey, bling down Bentley, Lamborghini. Success can just also just be you started with an idea, you saw it through, congratulations, and sticking with that. Success can also be, hey, there was one household or one person that you had reached out to that you had influence into turning on their light bulb, right? And success can just be like, hey, you know what? I was my 110% authentic self as I executed this particular activity, right? And I'm still learning to stay in that vein. I'm still learning. There's days that I'm like, yes, of course. And there's other days where if I have to be truthfully honest, where I'm like, oh man, why don't I, you know, but even in those moments where I slip a little bit, I'm always constantly reminded that it can't be any other way because all other things that you've tried to do and fitting in, they never panned out. They never served you. And it's for a reason. You know, the more and more you fight it, it's just going to expose it, you know. So you might as well stick the course and being your authentic self, right? And that's what it is.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I would say is just, you know, just finding and being honest with yourself and sticking the course and just starting it. I know it seems like when you think about it, if somebody told you, you have your educational degree too as well. I think you have your master's as well.
Yep, Masters in Social Work. Yep.
Okay. If somebody told you, Rolando, that, hey, it's going to take you 15,000 hours for you to finish your master's degree, and you're going to have to write 50,000 words in total or whatever, it would feel so daunting, right? But you're like, hey, it's going to take you 4 years or 2 years. When you break it down smaller and smaller and smaller, it becomes more and more manageable and more attainable, right?
Right.
I think it's important for us as well when we're starting off something that we have that same level of grace and just start it. Whatever it is that you want to do, just, I know it sounds super silly and super cliche, but like just start it. And as you start it and you do it, you have no idea the people you're going to. I'm talking to. I had no idea. I never met you a day. I mean, of course, I met you last weeks ago, but like other than that, I don't know you've met him. But I created something that opened up doors to come across interesting and influential content creators like yourself, right?
Sure.
As you go through your own journey and as you're leaning into that, you're going to come across all kinds of people and situations that you weren't even ever expecting, just because in following your path automatically opened up doors and led you to meet people or be in situations to create other opportunities, right? Just by just doing it, just by just being, right? And
That's right. That's right. Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because you're right. Like you were just doing your thing and your thing reached me and my family. And I was like, oh, I just got to reach out, you know? So that's a great example right there. Mm-hmm.
Oh, South Africa. I've always wanted to go to South Africa. Always. You're doing something, you're like, remember you said about unlearning? There's this thing, and I don't know why it's so ingrained. There's this idea and this notion that, like, okay, don't get me wrong. You want to do something, you work hard for it. No problem.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
People have this idea that you're not enough in being you. Like you are cultivating yourself to being the person you need to be to finally get to whatever juncture you need to get to. You yourself alone by design, are more than enough. But this programming of no, you're not enough, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough clout, you don't have blah, 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 blah. Bro, you're just in being you. You were uniquely designed with all the faculties and things that you need to have, and then some.
There's people out there that need to hear that right now. And even as you're talking, that's a good reminder for me to hear too. Because as you said, like some days it's like, yeah, that self-doubt comes in, you know, so that's why we have these conversations, because we need to be reminded, you know. So now we're at the 3-prompt part I was telling you about. So I have 3 statements here, and you can say as much or as little as you want to them. It's really just a snapshot in time. Like I said, I can ask you later on and you might be different, but it's really just where you're at, where your mind's at right now. So finish this statement. True social justice is possible when.
Social justice is possible when people come to an understanding that every piece contributes to the collective whole. That no one is more superior than anyone else. That we're all needed to contribute to the collective. We've all been given a piece of the puzzle, and every single piece is important to put together to have this art piece. We call life, we call earth, we call consciousness.
My approach to social justice is shaped by
My own personal experiences, but more importantly, the people that have come before me and the work that they've done. Because sometimes you get to a point where you reach a particular conclusion, and then when you look back in history and you see that somebody else reached the same conclusion with even less information that you have now, it leads me to understand that I'm on the right path. We're standing at the same crossroads. It leads me to believe that I'm on the right path because my forefathers and my ancestors had come to the similar path. I have to go back and revisit what they have done, look at what they have done, and then see how I can add to it. Yes.
understanding and sharing our social justice origin stories is important because
I think it's important to showcase that the things that you're fighting for, that it really stems from real situations that are leading you to change oppressive systems so that other people can avoid having the same experiences that you had, right? And then it also serves as inspiration for other people that are pursuing similar paths. And then also being like, hey, yeah, that's kind of similar to where I was at. You know, when you have people that are like-minded, it makes it a lot easier for you to continue to pursue the kind of work that you're doing because you realize that there are other people like you that don't necessarily fit in to status quo and that it's okay.
I appreciated what you shared around the ancestors piece. I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm coming to some of the same conclusions. And I feel like even though we're in this period, so much erasure is happening, my hope is that these messages, the storytelling that we're sharing will outlast us and find people in the same ways that the words and the writings and the art and the creativity from the folks who came before us found us in times that we have needed it. So I'm hoping that this outlasts us. It lasts longer than we do, and it reaches into the future. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. You know, we get the words of Baldwin and you know, Bell Hook, like so many people out there, and the art and all the different things, even the fact that that stuff has still reached us despite so many attempts to limit access and erase them. That makes me feel like this thing is on the right path because we still found those somehow. And I really do feel like folks will still find these stories as well. So with that being said, for future generations that may come across this many, many years from now, is there any wisdom you'd like to pass on to them? Any knowledge, any affirmations that you want to pass on to them? What would you want them to know?
Catchphrase, man. Be kind, be brave, be curious, but most importantly, be yourself. And that's what it is. Yeah, that's the catchphrase of my show. And I think that's the catchphrase of life, and being courageous to seek the truth, being brave and standing in who you are, and taking the time to honor and respect being and listening to your authentic self.
Okay. If you could name the storytelling that you share with us today, what would you call it?
I think the word that comes to me is roots. Everything is roots. We had talked about the death and the rebirth. We had talked about revisiting past history in order to trace back roots. Everything goes back to retracing your roots. And when you do, and you connect your roots with our past roots, it helps strengthen your own foundation. And as a result of that, it strengthens the foundation as a whole in terms of our community. So I would gravitate towards roots.
All right. So we'll work that in. We'll make that happen. All right. Okay. And with that, then I will say thank you so much for spending time with me, spending time with the listeners. Thank you so much for, you know, like I was telling you, I reached out sight unseen. He didn't know me. We didn't know each other at the time, but I'm so glad that you said yes to this. I'm so glad that we have met. Definitely support you and hope to continue to support you in the future. Like, it's just one of those things. I really appreciate it. And I tell people all the time, if there's something similar, hopefully this serves to somebody else too. If there's something you've been kind of keeping to the side, like, oh, that person might not know, oh, they don't know me, or a lot of the things you were saying, just a little nudge for you to give it a try. And, you know, hey, when it works, that's another victory you can put in your pocket to help you be bolder next time. So seriously, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being here and believing in this and adding your voice and your strength to the collection of stories that we're sharing. So thank you so much.
Man, I appreciate you reaching out to me, man. I appreciate you even creating a platform like this to have other creators and other people come on board to share their stories. It's much needed, very much appreciated, bro. And you have my contact, man. Please reach out any single time, bro. Anything, man. I got you. You got to stick together.
Definitely.
And that's right. So
definitely, same here. Oh, and also, I'm going to put all the links to your show in the show notes, and it's going to be on the website. But where can people find? I know you're on YouTube, right? So yeah, tell us where folks can find out Kujo's Kids Zone.
Got you. They can find me on Telus Optic. They can find us on Sensical Television as well. They can download the apps. They can also find us on YouTube, YouTube Kids, Black Oak TV. They can find us all over. And please like, subscribe, and share if you have the chance to. Very much appreciate it.
All right. Randy Quansah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, man.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and subscribe to Social Justice Origin Stories wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch video episodes on YouTube at Social Justice Origin Stories, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe there as well. Video episodes are also available on the project website, socialjusticeoriginstories.com. I'd love to hear about how you're engaging with the stories. Share your thoughts at socialjusticeoriginstories.com/contact or by emailing stories@socialjusticeoriginstories.com. To support the work of Social Justice Origin Stories, consider becoming a monthly patron. Your contributions will help keep this research going and support its mission. Visit patreon.com/socialjusticeoriginstories to learn more and make a contribution. Again, That's patreon.com/social justice origin stories. You can start or stop anytime. Social Justice Origin Stories is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Rolando Thompkins-Jones. Many thanks to our storyteller this week and the many storytellers who have contributed to this project. And thank you for joining me this week. Take care.